3 laps to qualify, boys.
Yeah, let's do it.
Stay away from the right side of the tabletop.
Live from the virtual Bark River International Raceway, we say good afternoon, short course fans, and welcome. We're happy to have you strapped into the virtual seat and along for the ride with us. Hi, Tiffany Stone and Jim Beaver. My name is Evan Pasoko, our producer Ryan Bauer, and the entire podium team bringing you to us this evening. And Jim, a new piece of short course content to the iRacing service as today we go Pro 4 racing at Bark River.
Yeah, you know, Park River is one of the most iconic tracks in off-road. It's one of the OGs along with Crandon. Really excited to bring this not only to the iRacing service, to the Jim Beaver Esports E-Short Course Triple Crown. Should be exciting. It's one of those old school field tracks. It's out in the Midwest, in the UP of Michigan. These trucks allows them to stretch their legs. Got one of the biggest jumps in all of off-road racing here, and that's got me really excited for what's to come tonight.
And close to home for our Tiffany Stone. Tiffany, happy to have you along with us for the ride for this one again. When it comes to the makeup of the drivers in the field tonight, right, it's been a thing we've talked a lot about on these events. The sim racers, the real-life racers. This may be one of the most stacked field when you talk about that sim racing talent of any we've seen so far, and I think it goes to show how competitive these drivers are in these Triple Crown races.
No, you're exactly right, and this is going to be a true test to all of that. This track is iconic, especially in Michigan. I'm a Michigander, and what's really cool about that is like what Jim talked about. It has one of the longest jumps, and we've actually seen this in person, so I'm really excited to see what happens tonight.
It's going to be a great afternoon of racing, and happy that everybody is with us this afternoon on Podium Esports. Of course, we've seen over the last about year and a half or so, right, all these different drivers compete through the 2020 season, and now as this Triple Crown gets underway in 2021, an all-new challenge. Sometimes we talk about the sim racers having some experience on the tracks. We've been everywhere, short course, but here, this has only been on iRacing for about a month or so, Jim. So as we continue to see this band and introduce the latest short course track to the calendar, we take a look high and above and introduce you to Bark River, Michigan and the Bark River International Raceway. It is a 12-turn, 1.5-mile circuit. Tell us what makes this racetrack so unique.
Well, what makes this as unique is it's been around for a long time, and it's got quite a bit of length to it. A lot of the short course tracks you see on the West Coast are short, compact. The tracks in the Midwest really allow these trucks to get up, get some of the biggest speeds you'll see in all of short course off-road racing. This one, no different. It's got some really unique features. You head out into turns 2 and 3. This is some of the most high-speed sections you'll see in short course racing. Turn number 3, iconically named the Cemetery Turn. Really tight. Trucks carrying a lot of speed into that corner. There's actually a cemetery that backs up to the race course there, so it's not necessarily as exciting as you would seem for a turn number 3, but a cemetery turn, definitely one to watch. And you've got this huge flyaway jump that you see here as we zoom in on that. Trucks hitting that at some of their top speeds, well over 100 miles an hour. You're going to see them fly a couple hundred feet off of that jump. Really exciting.
Let's talk about the race format for this afternoon's race. It's all going to get started, as always, in the heat races. Up to 3 different heats, 6 laps, to which the top 6 drivers will transfer immediately to this afternoon's finals. Those who are unable to do so going to get sent to one of possibly 2 LCQs. If we've got 2, we'll take the extra top 6. If there's only 1, we'll take the top 12. The end objective is a 24-truck feature race, 12 laps. Now, there are some inverts, Jim, over the course of the night, of course, in the heats and the features. So that's another thing that we always watch on is some of those mid-pack drivers who maybe have speed in the heat races, have some issues, but still make the show. They end up with a better track position for the feature, and those very fast drivers maybe who dominate end up mid-pack. So that's certainly, I think, a fun thing to keep an eye on. Let's go down trackside and take a look at your starting grid for heat race number 1. So Trent Dinkle on pole position for this one, alongside the number 70 of Oliver Golding. Chris Plumley will start from 3rd alongside Keaton Swain in the number 4 spot. Connor Berry and Cam Peterson get a double up. That'll be row 3.
Yeah, then we move on to Bodie Cryer and William Booth in the 4th row. We got Josh Fox, definitely one to watch there in row number 5, along with real-world racer Elliott Watson. Moving into row number 6, it's CJ Bunch and James Burke.
So that's how they will roll. Continuing on through, Tyson Miller, Kyle Cooper alongside with Nathaniel McCarkinen and Luke Knupp through row 8. Bryce Simoneau and Ethan Eber through row number 9.
Stacked field here. Definitely ones to watch, I would say, are Cam Peterson and Connor Berry, new signing to Jim Beaver Esports there, starting side by side back in, a few rows deep. Going to be a couple of hot ones to watch.
And those are names that are not new to those who are fans of East Short Course racing. Of course, we look back to the 2020 event. Cam Peterson, a multi-time winner, winning the East Short Course World Cup as well as the Pro 4 Triple Crown. So obviously with an anticipation to overhold. Let's go racing, though. This is heat race number 1, and off and away from the front of the field, Dinkle's going to get an early advantage from the top spot. Race control letting these drivers go a little bit earlier, a couple of corners earlier to space things out, and Dinkle clear front of the field. 3-way battle from there on back.
Yeah, looks like we've got Plumley and Connor Berry sitting there in the 2nd, 3rd spot. Looks like Camp Peterson tucking all the way to the bottom, trying to make a couple of passes, getting a 2 for there.
And trying to see how this mid-pack behaves. So far, so good. Plumley clear for the number 2 spot. So is Cam Peterson in 3rd. And then look at this mess. 4th on back on board with Peterson there. You can see up front it's clear, but off to the rear is where everybody else is tossing and turning. Some 3 and 4 wide center of the corner. Everybody trying to chase down the number 21 truck, but kind of in the middle of all of this is Cryer, Watson, Berry leaning all over each other as a couple of trucks are off and in the grass behind.
Yeah, trucks going all over the place. This is a wild one here on lap number 1 here at Bark River. This has got me excited to see how race is going to shape up the rest of this evening, as we've got Dinkle still hanging tight there in the number 1 spot.
1, 2, 3 have pulled away, but they have not separated from each other. They have pulled away from everybody else. So it is a 3-way race up at the front of the field on board with the number 4 truck there. 4th position, I guess I should say. With Keaton Swanee there, you can see those top 3 have checked out. Dinkle, Plumley, Peterson, 1, 2, and 3. And then it's the battle basically between everybody else. Remember, top 6 is all that matters, but don't tell that to the 320. Plumley to the inside, looking for the heat race lead.
Yeah, it looks like Cam Peterson's kind of sitting tight there in the 3rd spot, kind of waiting for these top 2 to kind of bump and bang, maybe sneak his way in and pass them both at the same time. Cam, one of the smartest and fastest drivers you'll see in each short course, so I think he's kind of a snake in the grass right now, kind of sitting back and biding his time.
far from the worst strategy, as he'll try to cross back down to the inside of Plumlee, and he'll put a door to him, make his way through. So just when we thought maybe Cam Peters was going to opt to be a little bit patient, he gets physical, pushes his way to the number 2 spot. Now on the bumper of Dingle, who led from the get-go. There's Peterson all over the door. The multi-time East Short Course winner wants to kick this one off in fashion. He's looking for the lead at lap number 2.
Yeah, all the way to the bottom, almost dragging his tires through the grass here as we click off yet another lap. But you got to give Dinkle a lot of credit. He's getting pressure from one of the best in the business, and he is not folding.
He's holding up pressure thus far. How aggressive you get if you are Peterson. Of course, the top 6 advance straight to the feature. P7 on back. Gonna have to deal with one of possibly 2 LCQs later on this evening. But I mean, don't count out Plumlee either in 3rd, because now he's in that Peterson early. Ride around a little bit and see what happens. And a couple of drivers rotting at the moment. There's another look. Chris Plumlee back to where he started in 3rd, ran the first 2 laps of this race up in 2nd, and probably got the best view of the house here as we ride on board with him.
Yeah, whoa, and on the bike. Looks like Dinkle finally making a mistake. Cam Peterson able to tuck in. Now it looks like we've got in the 3rd spot. Plumlee now trying to pass Dinkle as well as Dinkle regains onto the track.
Self-inflicted error. He hiked it up on the inside of the corner, and you could see that truck two-wheel it off to the outside, and he just takes himself out of the battle for the race lead just like that. So now Peterson assumes the top spot. Dinkle going to defend in 2nd. Plumlee sits 3rd, but Cam Peterson is a hard driver. Catch. Hard enough to hold up that 48 machine, but he's challenging. It is even more of a challenge to reel him in. So we'll see if the driver in Norwood, Ontario is going to pull away here. He started 6th in this race, guys, but felt like he was on the front row with how quickly he got to the front.
Yeah, Cam Peterson out front. He is a dangerous man as we jump into the 7th truck currently running in 7th, Bodie Cryer. Now remember, the top 6 are advancing straight to the main event, so he is looking at Connor Berry there in the CBR Jim Beaver Esports truck, trying to hunt him down, knowing that there's 1 spot left or he's heading to the last chance qualifier.
And he hopes that up the road there's a fight. You mentioned Connor Berry in the number 6 spot. Elliott Watson, 1 more spot up the road is interesting. Watson started this in position, so he asked the likes of Bodie Cryer, the likes of Connor Berry to get up and into the number 5 spot. So not for a lack of opportunities for some of these other drivers. Have other drivers been able to make their way through traffic? Keep that in mind as we look at this kind of 4 truck pack right now. Continue on through with that number 3 of Watson right in the middle of it all. Find a way through on Connor Berry, who gets him back. So great fight even within those trans spots. There will be an invert when we get to the feature race later on. That's something else to keep in mind. I believe we'll invert the 12 trucks for that final. So it's going to be huge on board with Luke Canuck.
Yeah, one of the interesting notes in this, Evan, too, is most of the Jim Beaver Esports events we've had in the past have all been a fixed setup. So all drivers running their own setup. This is the first one we're actually running with an open setup. So these drivers have been doing their homework on this brand new track to the service, trying to fine-tune not only their skills on the track, but their setups on the truck. So all trucks are a little bit different here today, and that is something completely different for this Triple Crown.
And that is a factor in sim racing. So for those who may not know the term open setup, fixed setup on the service, you can set a fixed setup race, which is what we've been using, to your point, in all other of these short course races where everybody has identical setups on the truck. So there is nothing that you can do to toy with it. It's going to come down absolutely to the driver because everybody's on an even playing field. Here, all the trucks are the same scan. You don't have equipment differences, but drivers can choose how to set up the trucks differently from one driver to another. And you talk about the teams, I think, as well, could be a big factor. Those who put in that R&D time. Limited time, granted, as we talked about. This is the newest of the short course tracks on the iRacing.com service. But definitely that does give them a touch of personality as we look off of the back of Watts. He now back to the hot seat in position number 6, but it's like the drivers behind him are still fighting amongst themselves as Bodie Cryer has got Luke Canuck all over him.
Yeah, it looks like they're having a heck of a battle there for 7th and 8th. We got Elliott Watson now starting 10th, moving up to 6th spot. At one point he was running in 5th. Connor Berry got around him. He's dropped back to 6th. Knowing this is the last lap, he's just trying to hang on there. He doesn't want to end up in the LCQ. So we're going to look there at our leader, Cam Peterson, who it looks like he is just checked out on the field now.
He has stretched his advantage to nearly 2.5 seconds. Top spot on the board right now, absolutely pulling away from Plumlee and Swaney in the number 2 and 3 positions. We talked about being kind of the next best battle on track through the field to the 320 in the mix as well of Plumlee and others. So that's the gap from 1 back to 2 and 3. But Cam Peterson on lock, a multi-time winner in Jim Beaver Esports short course competition. What a way to keep that momentum rolling. 2021, even despite the fact that he didn't have that top spot in Q, he blitzes through and wins in heat race number 1. Peterson's going to the final, and no surprise there.
Yeah, Peterson coming from the 6th spot all the way to the 1st spot. Looks like he had the best lap of the day so far, a 1:12.946. So Cam Peterson definitely making a statement here early on at Bark River.
Yeah.
So he's not the only one to move on through as we take a look at your finishing results from heat race number 1. So your top 6 moving on. It'll be Cam Peterson, Chris Plumlee, Keaton Swaney, Trent Dinkle, Connor Berry, and Luke Cadup are all going to the feature race later on this evening. Luke Cadup, driver on the outside looking in. William Booth, Ethan Ebert, Tyson Miller, and James Burke, top.
Yeah, then looking back at 11 through 18, Kyle Cooper, Josh Fox, tough run for him. Oliver Golding, Nathaniel McCarron, Bryce Simoneau, Elliott Watson. He was in a spot into the last lap. Something happened to him. He dropped back to the 16th spot. We had Bodie Cryer as well there to round out our field.
Watson's going to be hurting because we talk all this much about inverts. No inverts for the LCQ, so finishing positions in the heat is going to determine where those drivers line up. We've already sent 6 drivers to the feature race. Heat race 2 is...
20 seconds to grid, 20 seconds. Okay, everyone, we are extending the grid hold to 2 minutes. This is a TV hold. Everybody hang tight.
Starting grid, this is heat race number 2, and Brandon Proudfoot will bring us to the green flag alongside Holden Heitritter in P2, your winner from earlier this year in the 2021 East Short Course World Cup. Gary Green and Mason Prater are going to be the duo on row number 2. They'll start in 3rd and 4th position with Josh Edmondson and James Ambrosius, your top 6.
Then moving down to row number 4, we got Connor Parise and Bobby Rafferty. Row number 5 is going to be Derek Robinson and Louis Patino. And then row number 6, it's Cody Retzloff and Joshua Gaiman.
Back on row number 7, Crystal King will be alongside Travis Gamedia, alongside Tristan Delarue and Jim Parise in row number 8. Sean Stratton starts to the inside of row number 9. That'll put Tommy Donahue back at 18th.
It is a stacked top 6 and 8 trucks, Evan. I got to tell you, this is going to be a wild one here right off the start. As we saw at the last go-around, that first lap or two, a lot of guys jockeying for position, making some moves. It's going to be an interesting start here at Bark River for heat number 2.
Big stat I like to look at, and looking back on what we saw in heat race number 1, what we can learn from is that only one driver who started outside of the top 6 was able to race their way in to a transfer position. So clearly, track position is important. It's not the only thing. There were a lot of drivers that made a big spots. Ethan Ebert gained 10, but he was still just a little bit short. So qualifying earlier tonight, a huge factor, maybe more so than what we were anticipating. Again, this will be the last heat race, and a pair of LCQs coming up next.
Yeah, a few LCQs. Everybody's going to have one last chance. Our pace truck pulls off. We're going to jump through the starting jump, and we're going to be off and racing here. So they're bunched up. Let's come down here through turn number 1. Wait for that green flag.
Green flag, go.
And there it is. We're off and racing.
A lot slower of a start than what we saw in heat race number 1, but they are off and away with Proudfoot to the advantage. Second spot, that's where the fight's going to be as always. Looks like staying in front for the moment is Gary Green. Here comes a challenge up the inside. Not going to happen. Edmondson stays third.
Now let's see, we got Mason Prater, Holden Heitreiter, and Connor Parise there in 4th, 5th, and the 6th spots. We got a couple trucks off there in the grass. They hit this big kicker.
Everybody handles it well so far. Pretty clean, all things considered, for how stacked up they were. Big slide for 7th. I think it was Ambrosius back of the pack. Try to make some moves early on in this one, but 1 and 2 get to pull away. It is a trio fighting for the number 3 spot as Edmondson's trying to hold off, with Mason Prater on the charge in the 50.
Yeah, definitely one to watch is Mason Prater, as well as Holden Heitreiter there, that's currently in the 6th spot as we get a replay here.
Let's take a look back and see what happened on the get-go in this one. We talked about how bunched up things were, and towards the back of the pack it had some issues as it was problems back in traffic, just a little bit out of shape. And let's see what the issue is back here in traffic. Again, all was well, but right here, maybe a little bit off center. Going to try to line some things up, Jim, and we talk about how hard it is to navigate that traffic there. Looks like a lot of those drivers try to check things up, and take a second look at that one again in just a moment. But I think goes to prove the point that traffic may be your bigger enemy here than the racetrack itself as you go on board with Green. Up a spot already. His sights set on Proudfoot in P1.
Yeah, Proudfoot, a winner in some of our Triple Crown races in the past. We take a peek back. Look at that traffic, just almost a reverse entry going off into the grass. And that was definitely a rough turn there.
This is a money position.
So that was the concern. We talked about the traffic and got to look at it there. Just a couple of trucks getting hooked together off and into the grass. And with these very short 6-lap heat races, you really don't have time to recover from a mistake like that. I mentioned Ambrosius a little bit earlier, making quite a slide job. He is in the battle for the bubble and a bit of contact. Connor Parise in the mix, holding a Heitreiter as well. 3-way battle back here through traffic as you go on board with Parise, trying to hang on to that final ticket to the main event. But the 512 of Heitreiter now getting physical. Why not? Let's go 3 wide.
Yeah, we are 3 wide. Looks like Parise going to get pushed all the way to the outside. That might be the safest spot in the whole racetrack right now, as it looks like it works out for him as he kind of pulls that outside inside. Able to stretch. It looks like about a 2 truck length gap, as now it looks like is that Bobby Rafferty that gets by 2 trucks, and now he slots in as well. Ambrosius up and over the 14 truck, barrel roll down the stretch, but he is back on the gas, going to try and regain position.
Gonna have to try to straighten things out, but that'll take away his hopes of advancing to the feature just like that. After, I think it was a matter of time with all the 2 and 3 wide we saw. I think a couple of them caught the fence and went up and over. And unfortunately for the 14, he was the odd man out.
Gary
Let's
Green,
take a second look at how this one shook down. I think he's on the far outside in this 3-way battle. And right there just gets hooked, and over the hill, he gets touched. I think that was Heitreiter on the inside of him, alongside with Bobby Rafferty, Jim, and they just would not get off of him. Trying to go 3 wide through the corner, and everybody drove away. Brian Ambrosius there, and that's going to mix up that battle for the bubble, because now Parise much more comfortable in that group.
Yeah, you know, and going back to what you said too, he may find himself in the last chance qualifier, but as you had said, no, you know, we're not inverting the order in the last chance qualifier, so you really want to finish as high as you can, even if you're not going to qualify through, so you get that prime starting spot for the LCQ.
And the LCQ is no longer than these heat races. So I go back to saying, only one driver who started out of the top 6 in the opening heat was able to advance. So far in this one, all 6 drivers minus 2 were able to start inside of the top 6. So what do those numbers tell us? It's going to be awfully difficult for somebody to make their way through traffic in only 6 laps. And both LCQs only going to be 6 laps in length. So that is going to be, I think, an uphill battle for the drivers that have had issues in these opening heat races to kick off the night. As we watch this 3-way battle continue on, Mason Prater trying his best to get up and into the mix here. The battle for first position. Proudfoot, for the moment, continues to hang on. Josh Edmondson sliding to P2.
Yeah, Josh Edmondson, one of the quickest drivers on the server. We're going to see how that plays out as we get a replay back at some of the action.
I thought I saw, when we took a look at one of the replays, I thought I saw a truck on its lid, and that was it. Gary Green hiked it up on the inside and went all the way over, and now we're beating and banging in the fight for second spot as Josh Edmondson bobbles just a little bit, and Mason Prater wants to put it to him. That mistake, though, going to cost both of those trucks as a big advantage now goes to Proudfoot. His advantage in the blink of an eye now, more than a second, as they'll be coming to the white flag this time.
Yeah, Edmondson doesn't make mistakes very often. We saw one of the rare mistakes by him. Obviously, he's still solid into the main event if he can hold on here. But, man, showing a little chink in the armor there was Josh Edmondson. As Brandon Proudfoot, you got to give him a lot of credit. Leading this thing wire to wire so far. Just a complete beast here at Park River.
Very different story from the opening heat when Trent Dinkle dropped the back. But so far, Proudfoot has been impenetrable. And talking about the battle for the bubble and for the transfer spot as well, we checked in. You saw James Parise was still that car, and that truck is still there in P6. I prefaced when I said it would be hard for cars to come from outside of the top 6, Jim, but how about this drive for the 473 from 16th on the grid, the almost very back row up to P6? It's been quite a drive for the 473.
And he's had a lot of luck there. There's been some crashes, there's been some accidents, but the true story is he's been able to avoid all that. He's stayed clean, and I think that's the key here, staying clean. And, obviously he's been able to do it. It's going to be kind of a bit of a Cinderella story if he can make this drive and actually qualify into the main event.
Barney the flagman says white flag, 1 lap to go. The advantage for Proudfoot closes just a little bit. So I don't know if it was a noticeable bobble or not for the 22, but you saw those top 3 were closed it in. And let's go on board with Josh Edmondson in second. Again, what you're fighting for is actually a worse spot in the feature because we'll invert them by the time we get there for the top 12. So that is important to note, but everybody wants the bragging rights. They're trying to go and win it all, and Brandon Proudfoot's got a couple more corners to hang on. Edmondson may get a look here, though, before we get to the checkered.
Yeah, it looks like Edmondson dropping all the way to the bottom there, and he's had the opportunity to really watch Proudfoot's lines for about 5 laps here. So he knows the lines that Proudfoot likes to take, and, I think he's really putting himself in a good position to possibly make a move here and try and make a pass with about a half a lap left.
And I think the issue for him is going to be that maybe it's Prater who's not going to let him. They both get a little bit out of shape that time. Here's the look to the inside. Edmondson can't make that one stick. Proudfoot much more comfortable through the final corner. And Brandon Proudfoot, your Heat 2 winner from Park River. What a fight for the top 3. There's your top 6 across the start-finish line. And just like that, our first 12 drivers locked in to the feature race.
Yeah, and once again, we got to go back to that drive by James Parise to finish in 6th. I mean, Bobby Rafferty and Connor Parise 5th and 4th, but James so far in the 6th spot, going to qualify through, and man, what a drive for him.
So far, so good for a lot of these drivers. There's a full look at your top 10 finishers from heat race number 2. So again, 1 through 6, Proudfoot, Edmondson, Prater, Parise, Rafferty, and Parise. Those are the drivers headed to the feature race, and that's it when it comes to heat racing tonight. Everybody else now going to be sent to LCQs, where we will figure out the other half of the running order for this afternoon's feature race coming up just a little bit later on in this one. But the mentality has to stay the same. same. Only 6 drivers make it in, but there are no inverts. So where you start now is based on where you finished in your heat. Let's take a look at your starting grid for LCQ number 1. It'll be William Booth on pole position for this one, joined alongside by the 57 of Ethan Ebert. Tyson Miller, James Burke, they'll double up at row number 2 in 3rd and 4th starting position, with Kyle Cooper and Josh Fox the top 6.
Yeah, moving down to row number 4, it's Oliver Golding and Nathaniel McCarron. Row number 5, it's Bryce Simoneau and Elliott Watson. Elliott really quick early on and, had some problems there the last lap and, relegated to the LCQ. Then we had Bodie Cryer and CJ Bunch rounding out row number 6.
So look at the bottom at your starting grid for LCQ number 1. Jim, we talked about some of the traffic in those opening heats. Curious if only 12 trucks out there is going to make it a little bit easier for these drivers to get through that opening lap clean and green, and may open up the door for some of the drivers further on back in the running order to fight for a top 6 spot.
Yeah, this is all or nothing. I think elbows are going to be wide. This is either you make it into the top 6 or you are going home. We're going to see, who brings their A game today. But I think you got to stay clean. I think we're going to see a little bit rougher driving than we saw in the heats. But at the end of the day, as we saw, you got to stay clean. You got to get there to the final lap, and and that's going to be tough.
And we saw such different starts as well, right? Coming through the grid. In that opening couple of heats. So, Tiffany, we've already got 12 drivers locked into this feature. We're waiting to introduce 12 more. What are your thoughts on what we've seen down there trackside so far?
Well, what I've been seeing is, like you guys have been talking about, traffic, and obviously staying clean is going to get you from the 16th spot up to the 6th spot, which we just saw in Heat 2 as well. And being able to really read the other drivers' lines, seeing what they're taking, seeing where they're messing up, and obviously what's going to happen in this is everybody's going to go out because, like Jim said, if you don't make those top 6 spots, you're done for the evening.
And drivers don't take well to missing the show, so they're going to, I think, maybe give it a little bit more in this one. We saw some dive bombs and some drivers throwing it in. We saw a lot of people hiking it up as well. In some instances, it's ended up with trucks on their lid already tonight. We saw, I think, much more aggression interesting in that second heat than we did in the first, so I wonder if that continuance of ramping up the energy is going to continue off into this first LCQ. So again, starting positions gridded based on finishing spots earlier in heat races, and it is a 6-lap LCQ. Our top 6 going to advance to the feature. Off and away goes the pace truck, and Ethan Ebert in the number 57 to the outside of him, alongside the battle with James Burke on the front row. Figure out how these drivers want to shake this one out. Pace truck off and in. Drivers on the loud pedal. Let's go racing. This is LCQ number 1, and it's an early jump for Booth.
Yeah, Booth with a great, hole shot there to pull away from Ethan Ebert. We'll see if he can capitalize on that. You definitely in an LCQ want to run away and hide, as our flagman is telling him, go, go, go. But William Booth, what a great shot by him.
No, who's working harder. The drivers behind the wheel are the flagman, letting us know what we can and cannot do. But a lot of separation up front, something that we did not see in those heats. I mean, 1, 2, and 3 are well spread out. And then it's kind of the mess right here on board with Ebert in the bubble spot. Ahead of him is Josh Fox and then James Burke. And that's a look at the challengers behind him. You got Simoneau, you got Miller, all in the fray. Of course, they're all packed together on the bubble spot as we go on board again with Simoneau. One more spot. It's all he needs. Looking up the road, and a little bit wide that time for Elliott Watson. You do not want to give that 90 truck behind you an opportunity.
No, you definitely don't want to give them an opportunity, especially in an LCQ. You give an inch, they're going to take a mile, and I definitely want to keep those doors as closed as possible. With William Booth already half-second lead, he's stretching out. As we get a look there at Bryce Simoneau, he is in the 7th spot, hunting down Tyson Miller in the number 6.
Looked like maybe over-rotated it just a little bit. Maybe it cost him some time, and the battle for the race lead is on. You mentioned it, Booth and Ebert have pulled well away from everybody else, but it doesn't mean those two are in agreement, as Ebert's doing his best to reel down the number 51 truck. There goes first and second. Look at third place on back. I mean, a huge margin, first and second on to back, and there's 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and in the middle of all of that, how about the 3 of Watson doing a good job making up spots? Started 10th in this race and already finds himself, I would say, in a relatively comfortable spot, but you got 5 and 6 behind you, and here's a challenge now to the inside and on his door as Josh Fox going to try to sneak up the inside, hangs it way out over the hill, and about lost control of that 12 truck. Throw it in again now. Watson pays it back to him.
Wow, that was a Supercross-style whip we saw. As now Josh Fox is going to capitalize on this, kind of snake his way through as Watson goes all the way to the bottom. Fox going outside, inside, trying to get it back. Watson going to slam the door on Josh Fox. What a battle we've got here for the 3rd through the 6th spot.
And Miller, I think, just about flipped that truck over as he may have caught the K-rail coming over the hill, and that just about kicked that truck onto his lid. So it looks cool over the jumps, but it's not the most efficient way to get around here. More beating and banging out. Miller gets touched there. This battle continues on as it's CJ Bunch finding his way through. All kinds of physicality in the LCQ. It is gloves off, working lap number 3.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing here. 4th through, it looks like about 9th position, only about a second and a half, you know, separating them. So we've got a lot of trucks all with a shot at this point as we look back at some of this action.
Let's take a look. We saw the whip, and there it is. Watson on the outside there as it was the challenge up the inside by Josh Fox that got him out of shape, but it actually set him up there to cross Fox back over on the next corner. And here we paid the favor, no harm, no foul, and it's used at all your fenders as those drivers were at it. Up front, Ebert still chasing down William Booth. No changes there. They started 1st and 2nd. They run 1st and 2nd nearly halfway through this LCQ.
Yeah, you know, and all these drivers have spotters, and you got to think that Booth and Ebert spotters are telling them, hey, you guys have, you know, a massive lead over the rest of the field.
And keep
just lay up. Don't get into it with each other. You guys are both going to qualify into the main event. You know, that one position isn't really going to make too much of a difference. You got to think their spotters are in their ear at this point.
And then this group of 4 that needs to play nice, right? 3rd position odd back, Watson, Fox, Burke, and a bunch are all in as they sit, but it's that turquoise color number 82 machine, a bunch now who drops back to the number 8 spot. He needs to get back going. Tyson Miller now, the driver on the bubble in the number 90 machine, and you can see some of the hood damage on board. The 82 a bunch there needs to pick up 2 more spots. Curious if that's having a hindrance on that truck because he was in that spot pretty comfortably a lap ago, but these 3 now have pulled away, and Miller in the middle of it all is the driver in the last transfer position. So behind him, it's Bodie Cryer. Jim just missed that transfer in his heat and just on the doorstep of another one here in the LCQ.
Yeah, that would be a heartbreaker to finish in 7th, as, you know, when we're only taking 6 to the main event and go home. You know he's going to push. He doesn't want to be that first person on the bubble. And we've got, 3 to go here at Bark River in this LCQ. And I got to think there's going to be some fireworks in these last 3 laps.
Already finished 7th in his heat. He does not want to finish 7th in the LCQ. You are on board with Cryer. He's already passed 3 trucks. Just needs to get to Tyson Miller. But if the 90 truck doesn't open up the door, can he even get a shot at it? 2 laps to go this time by, and both trucks up the road. Miller in 6th, and even James Burke in the number 5 spot stayed mistake-free that entire lap. They didn't pull away at all from Cryer, but he wasn't able to close the gap at all either.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we haven't even talked about the story up front, but Booth and Ebert, almost a 5-second gap over the rest of the field out front. They are out on their own program as the 51 of Booth just continues to dominate here along with Ethan Ebert. You got to think both of those guys, like I said earlier, they know they've got this in the bag. All they have to do is get to the finish line. I don't think we're going to see much bumping and banging out of the 1 and 2 spot.
And this battle's a different one. There's a bit of an over-rotation and a spin. Was that the mistake? Yes, James Burke. I just mentioned the lap before how critical it was to stay mistake-free. Burke hiked it up on the inside just a little bit, got tagged by Tyson Miller, and on the inside, Bodie Cryer passed both of them to move to a transfer spot on lap number 5.
Any chance he gets.
We're going to look back at this, and it goes up on the bike, gets almost spun around there. A little help getting around, going through the banners.
And that was Cryer, right place at the right time, who took both of those positions away. in that pass. So all of a sudden now in the best position, and we watch for the bubble spot, who could pick up before this one is done. Still, it looks like up front it's not going to be a question mark, but is there any late changes with Tyson Miller? Now he's off it onto the grass. Miller from P6 took a huge dive, and Bunch just cleared him out.
You were in front of me.
Wow, 1 lap to go, and the gloves are off. We have a boxing match here at Bark River. Wow.
And don't look now, but Bryce Simoneau behind may say, all right, if that's how you're going to treat somebody else, I'll give it to you. I mean, just a huge slide looking to the inside, but he got him on that left quarter panel. Didn't stand a chance of recovering from that one. And up front, finals couple of corners. Look at Ethan Ebert. He will shove his way through. Booth back to the inside. He can't pass him back. And Ethan Ebert going to steal the LCQ win.
Wow, waited till the last lap. Ebert sitting behind Booth for 5 laps and made it stick on lap number 6. You got to give him a lot of credit. Just sat back, saw it opening. He snagged it, and he's going to have 1 spot better, I guess heading into that main event.
Thought for sure Booth was going to put it back to him, but instead it is Ether with the last lap pass for Ethan Ebert, who makes the move and gets the job done. William Booth will settle for second, and about a mile down the road is everybody else. Elliott Watson and Josh Fox had a good battle for 3rd and 4th position. Bodie Cryer with that second to last lap pass does make the show. So does CJ Bunch with a huge dive on Miller. Those are your top 6 drivers. Moving on, Simoneau, Burke, Miller, and McCracken not going to advance.
Yeah, Kyle Cooper, one of our real-world racers, transitioning over to the sim racing world. He's going to be on the outside looking in as well, but somebody no stranger to Bark River in the real world.
Yes, a tough break for those drivers to not make it on through. Now we have 6 more drivers to get in, and I know that we had predicted that LCQ was going to get physical. Heat race number 1 was actually pretty calm, Jim. Heat race number 2, we saw a little bit more physicality, but I mean, in that LCQ, guys were running over each other from 6 truck lengths back, so I guess that goes to show you if we had any doubt on how important it was to make it to the feature race, that showed it there that LCQ number 2 up next should be a good show.
Yeah, gloves were off there about right after the first lap. And, we had 2 guys step out front, and the rest of the field were, fighting for fourth or for the 4 remaining positions. It was definitely a slugfest, and it's got me really excited for the second LCQ.
I know that the drivers down trackside, Tiffany, may have some bent feelings alongside with bodywork after that one. I mean, you have the opportunity to talk with these drivers after these races, and we'll hear from all of them a little bit later on this afternoon. But, I mean, these guys hanging it all out, I think that's the one benefit of sim racing, right, is if you throw it into somebody's door, you're not going to feel it the next day. So maybe that gives these drivers a bit more courage to make some of the moves we just saw.
Exactly, and I mean, that's what we just saw in the last chance qualifier for this last one. Taking 5 laps and then finally going in, what do you have to lose besides possibly 1 or 2 spots? But it's really cool to see that. It's cool to see Elliott Watson move all the way up too and be in the top 6 moving forward. But like we've been talking about, now is going to be the big chance. We got another one going in for the last chance qualifiers, but I'm still excited for that main race.
There are only 6 spots left on the grid for the feature race, so LCQ number 2 is going to determine that one. And kind of funny, I think the calmest race start we had seen all night, Jim, was that last LCQ, right? Everybody spread way out, but once again, it was that mid-pack that had the drama, and even up front, some late race fireworks. Funny because we talked about the top 12 are going to invert for the feature, so all of these drivers don't have to worry about that. They're going to be outside of the top 12 on that grid, so that late race pass for Ebert gets him an extra spot on the grid for the feature. So they are fighting for every single spot, and I think a lot of these drivers may feel like, listen, I'm not slow, right? I shouldn't be back at LCQ. So they don't just want to get to the feature as an objective. They want to win it when they get there, and I think that's why they're fighting so hard for an extra spot or 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a win is a win. It doesn't matter if it's in a heat race or an LCQ or a main event. You love to walk away with the checkers and know that at least in that race you were the fastest. Like you said, all these drivers compete for something, especially in these LCQs, and you definitely don't want to be back there in say 18th or 24th position. You want to be as far as close to the front as you possibly can get. You're going to see these guys fight for every single inch in this last lap.
Just look at your top 6 for LCQ number 2. Gaiman and Robinson going to be on the front row alongside with Stratton and Delarue, Retzlaff and Patino, your top 6.
Yeah, moving down to 4th row, it's going to be Travis Cromita along with Tommy Donahue. We got Holden Heitritter, kind of a surprise there, in the 5th row along with Crystal King. And then we got Garrett Green, had a strong run, ended up having a crash there, and he's going to find himself in the 6th row along with James Ambrosius.
In the previous LCQ, half of the drivers who transferred in started outside of the top 10 on the grid. Do we see some fireworks in the final LCQ of the afternoon? The green flag flies, and we are racing. Around the outside of the top spot, though, goes Derek Robinson.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this first lap shakes up. See if we see a little more fireworks than we did in the last one. And it looks like it is go time here. And look at that. You got your top 3 kind of bunched up. And then after that, same thing we saw before, Evan, that mid-pack. It's just got a lot of trucks crammed in there.
In a big slide, John Stratton's getting bounced all over the place, and Delarue's happy that he's going to be ahead of this one, because look at the chaos. If you look off of the back of the 69 and now the Gary Green, who was on his lid in his heat race, he wants to get through, and he is all over with some contact as he got into, I think that might have been Patino up the road in the number 7 spot.
Yeah, and I got to think there's probably a little frustration going on with Gary Green. As we've seen throughout these races, he's always been one of the strongest sim racers. He's definitely a guy that competes for top 5s and top 10s, and he's on the outside looking in right now, and I think there's got to be a little bit of frustration, and I think we're going to see him take some chances in this LCQ.
Sean Stratton made a mistake from 4th. He over-rotated. Patino got into him, and that roughed up the number 91 truck a little bit to swap out some of those spots. As you can see how condensed the field is in this secondary battle. Way on the outside, that's Joshua Gaiman. But you're on board here with a couple of drivers, in fact, mid-pack here. Hard to see those trucks up the road, but the bubble spot right now belonging to, I believe, that side-by-side duo with Stratton as he tries to hang on in the 72 machine. And up the road, pulling away just a little bit, going to be Gary Green getting ahead of some of this mid-pack chaos.
Yeah, and getting ahead of the mid-pack chaos, that's going to be the key here to qualifying through. These 6 laps definitely take a while to get through there. We get a onboard there with Skermita, as Gary Green continues to fight through that mid-pack. It looks like they're chasing him down. He's got a little bit of breathing room. Looks like about a truck or 2 length, but we go onboard, looking out the rear. Skermita again with just a couple of trio of drivers on the hunt.
And just one of many who needs one extra spot to get into the show. Way to the outside, a thrown away corner for Cody Retzlaff, who ended way off and away, and now a battle for the race lead at the front. So action all over the track at LCQ number 2. There's the trio at the front of the field as Joshua Gaiman is going to see Tristan Delarue drive away. What a move for your 3rd different race leader in less than 2 laps.
Yeah, and we've got Heitritter there in the hunt in the 3rd spot. Don't forget, here about a month or 2 ago, he was our winner of our World Cup. Anybody knows how to kill it, it's definitely Heitritter, and he is on the move now. He definitely would like to move up a couple of spots, get a better starting position in this main event. So one to watch is that man there in the 3rd spot, moving all the way up from 9th already.
Only driver who already finds himself, as you mentioned, with a win here in 2021. A lot of previous race winners already locked into the feature. Can we see some new names up there as well? This is the battle for the bubble. Sean Stratton sits in 6th, and it's Skermita in the number 6 spot, I should say, that he wants. Behind him, it's Stratton in 7th. Do they move each other? They're not going to have to, because 4th and 5th are taking each other out. It's coming to blows between the 98 and the 920 of Gary Green, and that opens up the door as James Ambrosius tries to get away from that.
Yeah, did you see that? It was almost 4 wide there at one point. I mean, I've never seen 4 wide at Bark River in my life. I think
James
we're a little lucky that,
sure.
that didn't last very long. But here we are, 3 wide again. I mean, they are pushing the limits here, Evan.
And that's the second time tonight, at least, we've seen some four wide on track. Saw it a little bit earlier in that second heat race of the afternoon as well. So drivers are leaving everything on the track as we are halfway there. 3 laps down and 3 laps to go in this second and final LCQ. At the front of the field, Tristan Delaroute on cruise control. Mid-pack is where the chaos is. And here's the view from third. Holden Heitritter quietly in a very comfortable spot there. Second, as he's got Joshua Gaiman, though, all over and off track for the 9. Got to be careful there with race control watching the track limits.
Yeah, up on the bike, great save by him. Didn't lose much track position hunting down Heitritter, but I'm looking at the timing and scoring here, and nobody's safe in their position. I mean, first through sixth, everybody bunched up, all within about a half a second of each other. You know, first to second to third to fourth. Everybody, you know, about a half a second gap. So this is going to be a wild one with 3 to go here in the last chance qualifier.
And I have to wonder aloud, Jim, we've seen a handful of drivers tonight do that, right? Hike it up on the inside, get on 2 tires. We didn't really see that in any of the other races thus far. Is that, you know, they're just a little bit more aggressive on the inside at this track in particular? Or are drivers having to drive it that much harder that they're being a little bit more aggressive than they have been in the past?
Well, I think it's a little both. I think you got drivers really pushing the limits here and driving a little aggressive, you know, and probably, you know, hitting some things they don't normally do. But as we talk about that, you know, we're seeing 3 and 4 wide. These trucks aren't meant to go 4 wide at Barker. But when you do that, you're running over certain areas of the track that you maybe have never run over before. So I think there's a little going into it. But really, I think it's just these drivers pushing these trucks to the limit, trying to qualify in these last 6 spots.
And time is winding down if you're on the outside and looking in, because Ambrosius has the bubble spot, and behind him is a little bit of a gap to Cody Retzlaff. So that's an important thing to note. You're looking off the back end of the 14 back to the 525. Retzlaff has actually dropped 2 positions from the start of this race. So if Cody Retzlaff is going to figure this one out, he's going to have to find something that he hasn't gotten yet. But up the road may be the good sign, because if Retzlaff and Ambrosius fight with each other, it could open up the door, and there it is. Retzlaff now closes after Robinson and Ambrosius touch. So that's the one thing you don't want to do. Is 5th better than 6th? Yes, but if they start fighting too much for that spot, they could reel in Retzlaff. They could invite Patino even from the number 8 spot right into this battle.
Yes, we've got 1 to go now. It is all on the line. It is win or finish in the top 6 or go home here at Bark River. If you want to get into this main event, you have 1 lap left to do it.
And it's going to come from this group. The race leaders, some nearly 9 seconds up the road from the battle for the transfer position. It is all going to come down to this. And Derek Robinson was 5th last time by. He now sits on the bubble in the number 6 position. And it is still Retzlaff on the outside looking in. Curious if maybe Robinson going to kind of give that Ambrosius treatment back to the 14. Remember, those were the 2 that got together to keep this battle active.
Yeah, and it is an active battle, that's for sure. 0.6 seconds back out of that final 6th spot. We've got one heck of a battle between Retzlaff and Skrmita trying to shape up here with just a few corners remaining.
And up at the front of the field, Tristan Delaroute, final corner to the checkered flag, and a bit of a whip across the hill as he will advance to the feature race. What happens for 6th? Ambrosius leads this group. He'll be 5th. Robinson to the line, and a late challenge for Retzlaff does not stick. The 525 will just miss out on racing in tonight's feature.
Man, great racing all around. We called it at the start of that one, Evan. This one was definitely a little more exciting than the last one.
Take a look at those trucks as they cross the start-finish line. Delaroute, Heitritter, Gaiman, Green, Ambrosius, and Robinson. Those drivers are moving on to the feature race a little bit later on this evening. There's a full look at your results. Retzlaff, Patino, Skrmita, and Stratton, Jim, the drivers who just end up on the wrong side.
Yeah, just barely, but man, what a battle we saw all the way to the end as Tommy Donahue, Crystal King, both crashing out multiple laps behind there. But wow, I mean, we have a great main event shaping up. 24 trucks qualifying in, Evan. This is going to be exciting.
And we have not even gotten, as you mentioned, to the main event quite yet. The field of 24 is set. We'll step aside for a moment. When we come back, we are going to go feature racing.
Sorry, Gary.
No, you're all good. We all piled up there.
Come on, take it easy.
Thank you.
Nobody's ran more laps, all right? Nobody's ran more laps than me. Come on. Might not be the fastest guy, but I should be consistent.
All drivers to the grid, please.
Fucking
TV will be
looking
going
up,
through your truck and
sandbagged,
introducing you on the grid. So get up there and show off your pretty faces. And by that, I mean your sponsors.
The virtual Bark River International Raceway. Evan Pasoka, Jim Beaver, and Tiffany Stone on the call with you all. And Jim, I'll go to you first on this one. We've seen 4 races so far, but we haven't seen the one that matters, right? We've gone through our heats at our LCQs. Up next is a 12-lap feature race, an invert of the top 12. Going to mix up some of those top finishing results from earlier. But one thing I wanted to note, unlike some of the other things in the past, we've already talked about the setups tonight. One other thing to keep in mind is there is no competition caution break at the halfway point. So a start in this one, we've been talking about it all night, how important the starts are, but especially in this feature, you get a poor start, it's going to be very difficult to make up that time.
Well, yeah, that is definitely the truth, you know, and a guy, you know, like Cam Peterson, who we talk about, you know, every single broadcast, but you know, he's a victim of his own design. He's so fast that he ends up having these bad starts and things like the main event. But a guy like Cam, I mean, he doesn't have that chance to get things benched back up. So if you were one of the LCQ guys that may be you know, outside looking in, and now you start towards the back, or you Cam Peterson that was so fast that you're starting in the middle, you know, you're really going to have to push early on because you don't want those leaders to stretch it out, because you're not going to have a chance to make that time up with a competition caution.
It's one of those rare instances where maybe being like the 6th fastest truck isn't an awful idea, right? Because you're fast enough to defend the position when you get it from the invert, whereas if you were faster all night, you would have been on the wrong side of that one, Tiffany. A lot of our conversation for the last 30 minutes or so, especially in those LCQs, has been aggressiveness, right? I mean, guys were driving through each other. This feature race isn't that much longer. We go from 6 laps to 12 laps. I'm curious if you think that's going to change how these drivers approach this, if they think, listen, I got to survive to the end if I want to win this one, and maybe they can't throw caution to the wind quite as early.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, adding 6 more laps, usually when you just have the 6 and not having a competition yellow, that's going to change a few things. Usually, like Jim says, you can bunch back up, regroup yourself, take a minute, be calm. But with this, I mean, we saw with Ebert in last chance qualifier, you know, for the 1, he took the win in that last lap. And so it's going to be a lot of setting it up, seeing which turns you're going to be able to take and which ones you're going to be doing. Tristan was the same way. You know, we've seen many people come from the back of the field and go all the way to the front. So it's really going to be a lot of strategy going into the last few laps, I think.
Well, let's go racing. Let's go trackside and take a look at your feature race starting grid for this one. And on the pole will be Jim Parise in the 473 alongside Luke Cadup in the 77. Bobby Rafferty, therefore, going to roll from 3rd alongside Connor Berry in the number 4 spot.
Right,
Connor Parise, therefore, ends up 5th, and it's Trent Dinkle in P6.
Yeah, looking at the 4th row, we got Mason Prater and Keaton Swain, followed by row number 5. It is Josh Edmondson and Chris Plumley. Row number 6, Brandon Proudfoot and Cam Peterson.
In second half, all of your transfers from the LCQs. We'll see Ethan Ebert and Tristan Delaroot side by side on row 7. William Booth and Holden Heitritter on row 8, with Elliott Watson and Joshua Gaiman through P16.
Yeah, then we've got Josh Fox and Gary Green, Bodie Cryer and James Ambrosius, and rounding out our 24-truck field in row number 12, it is CJ Bunch and Derek Robinson.
To look top to bottom at your Pro 4 starting grid, this is your feature race. 24 drivers plus. Started this one, we've whittled them down to the very best. And we're going to go feature racing for 12 laps. An invert and no competition cautions. Pace truck off it in. Parise from the front is on the throttle. Let's go feature racing from Bark River.
It is 12 laps on tap, and it's going to be an exciting 12 laps as Parise getting pushed out there. We got Luke Cadup, I believe, in the 2nd spot. He's definitely one to watch. He is wicked quick, and you know, he's got the skills to take this thing home. We'll see if he can hang on here and do it for 12 laps, but he's got to get around that number 1 truck, and he wants to do that quick.
We had CJ Bunch on his lid back in traffic. I think I saw him flip over for just a moment on the initial start of that one. That's the second time it's happened to him, but on board with Parise. Ends up in second after starting this one from the top position, and you can see the battle for the race lead far from over. Is up front, Parise, correction, still
right,
the
who's
race
getting
lead.
wrecked
There's
in this
Buck.
corner?
This is the battle with Luke Cadup
Not me,
on
please,
the
not me, please.
inside. The 77 trying to make it move early. Can't happen now. Across back to the inside. Luke Cadup looking. He takes the top spot.
Yeah, Luke Canup, that's what he's been wanting to do. He wants to get that top spot. He wants to check out on the field, but I got to tell you, he's got a lot of quick drivers behind him. Looks like Rafferty. Looks like we got Connor Berry in the mix. So a lot of trucks there. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at that. I mean, 1-2 seconds separating the top 6, 8 trucks.
And a lot of the time we would talk about that bubble, there is not one. It is just fighting for the race win. Let's take a look. I mentioned a bunch was on his lid. There it was, and he had a lot of help before we even got to start. Lap number 1, he was on his lid. I know Josh Fox has since ended up on his lid as well. He hiked it up on the inside. There's a couple of trucks in the rear off it in the grass, so drivers are all over the place early in this feature, and it may be good news for Canup up at the front of the field because second and third doing battle. Parise and Rafferty, as you mentioned, the trucks sitting second and third right now. But, I mean, mid-pack, if you're stuck in that mess this early, it's going to be awfully difficult to reel in these top trucks, and honestly, the way Nup's driving away, I think everyone's going to have an issue getting to him as we see a look to the inside back there in a fight for P8, where Cam Peterson leads this Hornet's Nest in his 48.
Yeah, you know, and that's the key here. You know, we don't have that that midway competition caution. So, like a veteran of East Short Course like Canup, he gets out there out front. He can stretch that gap. He didn't have to worry about it going away. That is dangerous for the rest of these drivers. Doesn't matter how fast you are, you a guy with skills like that, the lead out front at Bark River, and it's going to be dangerous.
Man.
Let's take another replay and a look back in traffic with Swain on this one, and it'll be right-hand side of your screen. We talk about all the contact. There's another one up and over.
You don't want to be out
Keeps
there.
it in the
Holy
ballpark as he ends up putting outside and gets another shot just for good measure. So they did not take our advice that much in terms of it's a longer race, let's take it easy, but I think it's also a big factor that we have almost double the amount of trucks in this feature than we did in even the largest of the heat races a little bit earlier on. So I do think it is fair to say that with that many trucks on track, Jim, at the same time, even if you want to try to give somebody some space, as Canup is hanging it out in the number 1 spot right now, some of that contact is inevitable.
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some contact. It doesn't matter how clean of a driver you are, and Rubbin is racing, especially in East Short Course. But we go on board, and, you know, with Mason Prater, started 7th, moved his way up into the 4th spot. Looks like he's settling in, trying to hunt down the top trucks. We'll see if he's got a little something. Looks like he's got a gap behind him and a gap in front of him. And he's in a good position here to make a run down the stretch.
Connor Parise getting moved out of the way behind them as Trent Dinkle forces his way through, and now a look back to the outside for the 11 of Connor Parise. So this battle going on for 4th and 5th position, and Cam Peterson wants to join the party. He just has to get through Dinkle at the moment in position number 6, and Peterson riding in 7th position. And to be honest, not normally are we used to Cam Peterson being a mid-pack truck, Jim, but we did say that this is probably one of the most competitive field of sim racers we've seen in one of these East Short Course events, and very shocked that Peterson's almost been a non-factor to this point.
Yeah, you know, and he won his heat race and, you know, qualified in, you know, and he started mid-pack, and he's, you know, slowly picking his way through. He's still got 9 laps to do it. But, you know, talking with Cam Peterson, he said, you know, a year and a half ago, when he won the World Cup and dominated everybody, he said it was a different field then. He said everybody else has got quick, and, you know, Cam's been fast since the get-go, and everybody's pretty much caught up to him speed-wise. So Cam goes, I'm fighting for inches when those other guys were making up miles. And he said, now we're all about even. And he says it makes every single race really tough to win.
Due to that invert again, otherwise he would have been slated to start from P1, as you mentioned, at a 12th, and he has gained 5 since then, but I think the biggest thing that's going to hurt him is total gap, right? He's already 5 seconds off of the race leader. Just don't see that being made up in the 9 laps that are left to go, but he will put another spot in the back pocket on the inside of Trent Dinkle and will take a spot away. So he's now at a race high position number 6. So not for a lack of trying. Mason Prater, meanwhile, up the road, started 7th. He sits in 4th, but wants a little bit more. He's got his sights set on the 7 of Bobby Rafferty, who sits in 3rd.
Yeah, Rafferty, he's a veteran of iRacing, runs in quite a few different disciplines. He's always run pretty strong here in our Triple Crown events. Definitely one to watch. He's kind of sitting back there, and he's a bit of a wild card. I don't think a lot of people know what to expect. He doesn't run a lot of the leagues, but he shows up and he's always quick. So Rafferty here, one to watch down the stretch.
And a lot of drivers, I think, are still going to be factors in this one, but they are all, I think, a second class to Luke It Up right now, who continues to dominate this race in the number 1 position. Still sits in 1st spot. His advantage now more than 2 seconds back to James Parise, who started on the pole for this one. And just think how different this race could have been for Luke It Up, looking back to the fact that he started way back in 16th position for his heat, but drove up, stole the final transfer spot by luck of the draw, put him on the front row for the
lap
invert.
6, halfway done.
He is not leading only because of track position. He's got the speed as well, and he has checked out. Josh Edmondson, somebody else, so much experience on the service and experience in E-short course, but looking to advance his position, not where he wants to be yet, still looking for a race win here in E-short course.
Yeah, Josh Edmondson, one of the most dominant drivers in East-short course, over the past couple of years. And he's another victim of his own success like Cam. Started deeper in the field. He's had to fight through everything. We'll see here with 7 to go. We're almost at the halfway point if he continue to make up positions. But like you said, Luke It Up. I mean, the damage he's doing out front, over a 3-second gap now. I don't care how fast you are. That's going to be tough to hunt down.
Yeah, just looking at lap times, as you look on board there with Connor Berry, who's gone the wrong direction, and that's maybe where the invert acts how you would have expected it to. A driver gets flipped up to 4th, but is running in about 10th position. That's basically where he would have started if that invert wasn't there. And just looking at lap times, I mean, Luke It Up ahead of this battle here between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. That's got Bobby Rafferty in about all of it. I mean, consistently Luke It Up is the fastest truck on track. You do have guys like Parise who have some lap times that are close. Even Josh Edmondson last time a little bit quicker. But overall, it is not, again, just because he got the track position by invert. That 77 is walking the walk. In addition to talking the talk, and he's having a good time up front already. And he's short course winner from last year at Crandon.
Yeah, he's short course winner from Crandon last year, and out the back there, that is Rafferty with Prater playing Hunt. Looks like
dude, that was a fucking move.
He's gonna be able to get around. Looks like he's got a good position on Rafferty. Is he gonna make it stick? No. Rotates, pushes Rafferty out. Looks like he's gonna be able to slam the door. No, Rafferty all the way back to the inside. Look at Cam Peterson go dropping down. He's looking to get 2 spots.
I'm in a race.
Hold on. Thank you very much.
A light beer.
As they beat and bang, he will drive past both of them. How about that move by Cam Peterson to move himself into a race-high position? That battle up the road for 3rd and 4th got a little bit physical, and Peterson now in 3rd with his sights set on James Parise up the road. The 473 sits in 2nd. I wonder if Bobby Rafferty wants to get on the action. He's dropped 2 spots. Can he pick up some more as he's got a windshield full of Prater there up the road to find his way through?
Yeah, we've got an interesting battle shaping up. 5 to go. Can Cam Peterson hunt down Luke It Up? He's got to get around James Parise, but Cam Peterson with clean air, he is a world record holder. He is lightning quick. I got to tell you, this might get racy by the time we get to this final lap.
Current interval between 1st and 2nd, 4.6 seconds. Is It Up too far? Can Peterson top out in 2nd? Not at all a knock, by the way, on James Parise. We talk about how Canup, I should say, has pulled away on this one, but James Parise has been pretty clean, but this is going to be a tough driver to hold off as there's Nup joining the clean air up at the front of the field. And just as I mentioned that James Parise was having a pretty clean night, there he is, off and in the grass. Cam Peterson moved him out of the way just a little bit. Somebody up and over, nearly flipping way off track. So things are really starting to heat up now in the second half.
Yeah, that might have been Edmondson in the background there that we saw shoot off the track. I don't know for sure. It's definitely one of those fistful of bourbon Jim Beaver Esports trucks. But we're getting word that that was Josh Edmondson. So tough break for Edmondson. You know, one of the quickest guys on the server, and he just hasn't had a lot of luck tonight, Evan.
You stay off that
sometimes
grass,
it just does not come to fruition. And we'll get a second look at what happened with Josh there. Was running exactly where he started in 9th position. And we saw him dart sharply, and there it is, just a little bit out of shape. And I wonder if that was his teammate who got into him a little bit on the landing, maybe got underneath him before his truck came back down on all fours and jetted off track, and it's going to cost him several positions as Edmondson falls down the running order. Right now back down to where he started. So a zero-sum game on the inside of Prater. Here comes a challenge. Can Bobby Rafferty make some noise? He wants third back from where he started. He's all over the back. You look on board with Prater.
Yeah, Prater, he has been through war so far today, and so has Bobby Rafferty. See some of those fenders missing from Prater's truck. Rafferty going to try and hunt him down. Looks like he's trying a little outside, inside. Nothing there quite yet. These trucks been pretty evenly matched throughout the race so far, so it's going to be tough, and I think we're going to see this battle shape up all the way through the end. It looks like they go way outside, a little bit rough there. Might have to start switching up their lines in future laps.
It's something we haven't talked much about today at all, right? The fact that you can actually see some of the blue groove and the marbles up on the outside of the corners as these drivers have, I think, combined now, done a couple of hundreds of laps on this surface. It is not going to be driving like it was at the start of the night.
No, definitely not. You're going to see the best drivers start to switch their lines up and start moving outside, start moving inside, slightly adjust their line a few feet at a time. This track is starting to go away, though. You see that blue groove really starting to set in certain corners, but it's going to be the best guys that are able to adapt, find that traction, and continue to tick off really good laps. But right now, man, the man on the on a mission is Luke Knupp. Cam Peterson now looks like about 3.75 seconds back to Luke Knupp. I don't know if he's going to have enough. Might take a little mistake or a little bobble there for Luke Knupp for Cam to have a shot at him.
In the last lap, the lap advantage went in favor of Peterson by nearly an entire second. So Cam Peterson has shifted it into an all another groove. But is he going to have enough time? And I'm also curious, with the huge advantage and lead that Luke Knupp has, almost wonder, Jim, if he's taking it a little bit easy, right? We have seen a lot of self-inflicted errors tonight. Cars hiking it up and flipping it, people getting squirrely over the ramps. I wonder if Luke Knupp is going to play this gap down over these final few laps, as the difference between first and second now down to just 3 seconds.
Yeah, you can see Cam, he is on the hunt. He's got Luke Knupp in his sights. He is absolutely foot through the floorboard trying to make this thing happen. He's going to run every single line he knows, and I don't know. I don't know if he's going to have enough, but this is going to be fun to watch these last 2 laps.
You got one driver giving it absolutely everything as Peterson wants desperately to chase down Luke Knupp at the front of the field. If Peterson could do it, he would become the first 3-time winner of East Short Course. Just he and Brandon Proudfoot tied with multiple race wins. Knupp, a previous winner, we mentioned that at Crandon, only he and Holden Heitritter are the other drivers to ever win an East Short Course event, and the white flag going to be in the air next time by. Here's a good battle amongst teammates for 5th and 6th position. Connor Parise defending, Connor Berry charging for 5th and 6th.
Yeah, this is a good battle, and Connor Berry, he had a really good starting spot, dropped back to the mid-pack, but he's slowly been able to battle back there into one of those top 5 spots, or right there on the bubble of the top 5. Connor Parise, what can you say about this guy? He is a journeyman, especially on dirt road on iRacing. World championship competitor in rallycross. Here he is, one of the top short course drivers in the world. Definitely, this kid is locked and loaded when it comes to dirt road on iRacing.
Saw a lot of the same stuff at Bobby Rafferty earlier in this race, right? Dropped back, but he has been steadily picking up those spots here in the second half. Again, without that comp yellow, Luke Knupp was able to build an advantage at one point more than 5 seconds ahead of the next closest driver. Peterson has got it to under 3, but it does not look like it's going to be enough as the 77 hits the home stretch.
Yeah, it's going to take a mistake in one of these final corners for Cam Peterson to be able to catch Luke Knupp. But you got to give a lot of credit to Cam Peterson. Start all the way back in that 12th position, and he has had one heck of a run here to finish second in this race.
And Luke Cadup looking for a second career win in East Short Course as he comes through the final quarters. Luke Cadup going to be your Pro 4 Triple Crown winner at Bark River International Raceway. What a drive for the driver out of Peoria, Arizona.
Man,
did not start on the top position, but very quickly Jim took control of this feature.
Dude,
and
you were
back.
fucking reeling him
Yeah,
in.
you know, and he got out front, he stayed clean. You got to give the kid a lot of credit. He hit his marks lap in,
Dude,
lap
that was
out.
good drive.
Never made a mistake. And even with Cam Peterson hunting him with clean air, he still never folded. And you got to give Luke a ton of credit for walking away with the victory today.
Look how tight it got at the end. If this was a 14-lap race, Cam Peterson probably wins it. Peterson, on average, was a second faster per lap than Cadup at the end of it all, but the 77 hangs on for a margin of victory of 1.9 seconds. With Mason Prater taking home the final step on the podium. Good showing for the driver of the 50 machine, who picked up 4 spots in the feature. Bobby Rafferty and Connor Parise round out your top 5. Connor Berry comes home in 6th. Chris Blumley in 7th spot. Josh Edmondson back in 8th. Bodie Cryer 9th. And James Ambrosius rounds out your top 10.
Solid run. 7th place.
Yeah, 7th. I mean, he lost 2 positions mowing the lawn. So, I mean, he's fucking running, man.
Yeah,
there's some stiff competition. He's up there.
Yeah, damn right he was.